nuclear scaffold in zonulopathy. Now, what I'm going to talk about is how we have heard of so many things that people are using rings, hooks, and for taking care of situations wherein the capsule happens to be compromised, be it a generalized zonular weakness or be it a zonular dehiscence of varied degree. So here I'm going to show you a case which led to a new concept of using a nuclear piece as a scaffold. So now mark my words, nuclear piece as a scaffold, can it be used to take care of the weakened places in the zonules in the capsule wherein there is a weak zonular support. Let's see this video and we'll see how things unfold. You will see the initiation of the rhexis here is difficult. What does that mean? That means that the zonules are weak or the bag is empty. So a cystitome has to be used for that matter, and the capsular rhexis is started. So at this point of time, there are three options. The first option is that you use bimanual rhexis, use the second rhexis forceps and provide counter traction and continue with the rhexis. The second is use capsular hooks, and what is the click in using the capsular hooks is that you initiate the rhexis, move 1 to 2 clocks forward and use a capsular support to provide immobilization of the capsular bag and to provide artificial zonules, because these capsular hooks, they extend right up to the equator. So I decided, let me see whether I can continue with the forceps, and the large arm of the rhexis with stability showed that there was quite a bit of zonular stability around. Keeping that in mind, I decided that we should continue with phacoemulsification. Here I would like you to see that there is an area of zonular dehiscence. So that made me think again that what next has to be done. So at that point of time, I geared down my phacoemulsification procedure, slowed it down, did a measured direct chop, taking care so that the stress on the zonules was decreased. At that point of time, I had three options, whether to use capsular hook, CTR or continuum emulsifications. So I thought that I'll do the zonular counter traction test, which is done by trying to rotate the nucleus. If the nucleus rotates, this shows that there's a fair degree of zonular stability. Again, I chopped, and to my surprise, I could continue without any problem whatsoever. Again, there was an area of zonular dehiscence. That meant that enough was enough for that matter. So at this point of time, I thought that I have to add in a support. Now I realized, because in this patient the nucleus piece was hard, so there were three options. First, to use capsular hooks, CTR, or use nucleus as a scaffold. Now what is this nucleus as a scaffold? You will find that when we rewind it, you will find when the nuclear fragments were there in this area of zonular dehiscence, the zonular stability was relatively in a better state of situation. So I thought that I'll continue with it, and I'll use capsular hooks. I'm sorry for that. So I thought that I'll use, this area of, because this is providing the capsular support, the nuclear pieces. So I'll use a nucleus piece, as I've already told, and I'll use a CTR to provide the horizontal support. The nuclear pieces would provide a three-dimensional support. Mark my words, these nuclear pieces provide that support only when these nuclear pieces happen to be hard. Had they not been hard, then I would not have been able to continue by providing any nuclear scaffolding for that matter with the nuclear pieces. So a CTR is introduced in this situation. A CTR, if the zonular dehiscence is less than 90 degrees, in those situations, the CTR can be added from any viewpoint, from the weaker to the stronger or from the stronger to the weaker. Whereas if it is more, now you will see after the CTR has been added, what I'm going to do, I have positioned intelligently, smartly, the nuclear pieces in the area of zonular instability. So that is in addition to the CTR, which is providing a horizontal support, I am providing a three-dimensional support of, with the help of the hard nuclear pieces for that matter, and the bag has been provided a good amount of stability. You will find again I have repositioned these nuclear pieces in the area of zonular dehiscence to provide that additional support. And when that is being provided, now once that is done, what is the next frame, next thing in my mind? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to introduce an intraocular lens now. So this intraocular lens in these conditions has to be a three-piece intraocular lens. Why a three-piece intraocular lens? Because the three-piece loops, they provide a better extending support or support to the capsule. And it has to be positioned in such a way that it is aligned in the area where there is zonular deficiency was there. Here you will find that I am using an IOL as a scaffold also in addition, wherein previously I was here you will find now that there is some amount of peaking. Now what does that mean? That means that there is vitreous in the AC. Now what has to be done? I have two things in mind. I don't want to aspirate the vitreous, number one, and at the same time I don't want that the vitreous should be hydrated fast. So I'm keeping this phaco probe as far away from this area and continuing with it. You will find that I'm keeping it away and I'm continuing, and once I'm continuing, I'm keeping it farthest away so that I'm not aspirating the vitreous tag for that matter. So once that is done, you can still see the peaking. Now what to do? Before you take it out, you have to inflate the bag again, because any chamber instability at that point of time can cause further stress to the zonules and cause more vitreous to come. So the bag is again inflated, and now the last nuclear pieces are out. This should not be done. Why this should not be done? As Steve Charles has said that if you do it, that puts more pressure and it can create a tear in the retina. So this should be avoided by all means. So as always happens, I was waiting for Triamcinolone, I was waiting for a cutter. In an anterior segment surgeon, you will find at times things don't appear at the right time. So what I decide till it appears, I instill Pilocar so that the pupil constricts. Again, I'm repeating, this should not have been done. Ultimately, what I find is the Triamcinolone comes. It comes late, but better late than never. Since it was a small tag, I didn't put the irrigation on. I just removed it without having irrigation because it was a small vitreous tag which had to be removed. Once that was done, I reintroduce the Triamcinolone to see the absence of it. This is the second case wherein you will find that there's a large area of zonular dehiscence, maybe 180 degree. The trick is initiate the rhexis in these capsules farthest away from the area of zonular dehiscence. So once that has been done, the next point is what type of rhexis has to be created. The type of rhexis which has to be created has to center the lens. It has not to center the pupil, because by all means when we pull it up with the capsular hooks, it's going to help. Now once that is done, the next step is introducing the capsular hooks. Now what do these capsular hooks do? For heaven's sake, don't introduce iris hooks. Capsular hooks, no doubt they appear larger than your routine iris hooks. They are very easy to implant. You can use an MVR blade of 20 and that can help you in implanting these CTR, these capsular hooks. So in this patient, I use 3 capsular hooks, and you will find once that is done, because they go right up to the equator. This ease in rotation shows that I've been able to provide counter traction with this. Once that is done, you will find now what I am doing. what I am doing now is I have placed this nuclear piece here. So it is again in the area, these hard nuclear pieces are in the area of zonal adhesins. They are providing an additional support to the capsular hooks. At this point of time, CTR could also have been implanted, but that could, because that would have provided a horizontal support. With the presence of the nucleus pieces, the hard nuclear pieces, acting as, you know, a three-dimensional support, you can delay the insertion of capsular CTR till the last nuclear pieces. You can see how perfectly placed the nuclear pieces are here, and the emulsification is carried on with low fluidics at this point of time. You will find that again I'll reposition these nuclear pieces, the nuclear piece again in that area of zonal adhesins. Now is the time when I would introduce capsular hook, when the last nuclear piece has to come out. Again, because I found that the nuclear pieces with the capsular hooks were providing the adequate support, so now the capsular hooks come. You will find now when I've introduced these capsular hooks, they are going in from the area where there is the zonules are present rather than the other way around. So once that has been there, now see how I am placing this spatula here. This spatula is, you know, what is the situation? We have capsular hooks which are providing an anterior-posterior support. We have CTR which is providing a horizontal support. At this point of time, to further protect the posterior capsule, I'll place this. Look at the, you know, how phaco tip is there. It is straight on so that it doesn't hit the posterior capsule, and this will be placed posterior to it. So once that is placed posterior, with the fluidics on the lower side, the nuclear emulsification will be completed and the capsular support will be adequately taken care of. So in short, so nuclear scaffold can be used in hard cataracts because it helps in generalized zonular weakness. In subluxations less than 90 degrees and more than 90 degrees, it acts as an additional endogenous support. Anterior, posterior and horizontal support is provided by it. It cannot work alone. It cannot work standalone. It has to be used in combination with other scaffolds. So this was, you know, this nuclear scaffold technique was the most read technique in Journal of Cataract and Refractive Surgery. Thank you very much. Doctor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rohit. I would like to ask one question. For the IOL scaffold to prevent PCR, how do you take care of the collateral damage to iris and corneal endothelium?
When we are trying to prevent PCR, when you have
for the IOL scaffold.
Yeah. When you are, you know, when the IOL is there as a scaffold, this means you are not concerned about the posterior capsule because the IOL is very much there. So with this thing in mind, you can work at a deeper plane. And once you work at a deeper plane, you are farther away as you would not have been had you not put an IOL as a scaffold. So putting an IOL as a scaffold makes you work at a deeper plane. So you are away from the endothelium.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the audience? Okay, so